Talk to Me is directed by Danny and Michael Philippou. I'm hoping I get that name right. Sorry, those names right. Sorry. And this stars Sophie Wilde, Miranda Otto, and among others. And this story, it deals with a girl named Mia who ends up going to a party one night, and she ends up pretty much going into this kind of like weird kind of experiment where she ends up having a way to talk to spirits by having this kind of hand that she reaches out to, and she says, "Talk to me," and they light a candle. And pretty much as she sees spirits, there's some gruesome stuff that goes around, and it has kind of a similar premise to what that movie Smile had from last year in a similar way when it comes to like entities and stuff and seeing things that are not there and things like that. And it has a very similar atmosphere like that one. But pretty much as the movie goes along, she's starting to uncover some other stuff that's involved with her backstory in the film. And she tries to unravel like how this is all happening, especially when it affects people that are close to her. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, believe it or not, this was a film that I didn't really know anything about until a couple months ago when I heard about a month or so ago when I saw the trailer for it. And apparently this was directed by these two brothers that are known for this YouTube channel called RackaRacka, which, funny enough, actually I have watched their YouTube channel a long time ago, and they had these videos that feature Ronald McDonald as a killer. And it's crazy to think that the guys that did those videos later got into pretty much making their own feature film. And from the trailers, it kind of had, I didn't really expect much into it because it seemed like, going into a typical A24 horror film. I have been kind of hit and miss with them at times with some movies because they can be really good, and then other ones they can be really, not so good. And so going into this one, I didn't really think much of it, but after hearing a lot of the buzz surrounding it and a lot of the stuff that kind of interests me, especially with what they were doing with the premise behind it and everything, I decided to go check it out. And so after applying and seeing the film, I can say that I was really, really like at a loss of words how much this movie was so great. Like, to me, this is probably one of the better horror films that I've probably seen in quite a while. That really puts me in that kind of edge where it gives me a lot of anxiety. It gives me a lot of disturbing feels for it. And while it could have some like weird stuff that happens like you would see in other A24 films, there's some really like outstanding stuff. There's really some really unsettling stuff in this that I couldn't believe what I was watching. And to get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were all great, especially the main girl, Sophie Wilde. I'm not really too familiar with her, but she really carries this movie, and her going through this journey with her having to unravel what's going on with this entity and stuff, and then also trying to, it's not going to go into spoilers, but there's something else that happens where somebody close to her basically is involved with the entity and stuff, and she's trying to pretty much trying to find a way to save him and stuff like that. And so, she really put it all in. She really has a lot of great emotional scenes where there's some really great backstory that's involved with her character, and she goes through an arc in this that I think is not only very fascinating, but it kind of takes the kind of like backstory that goes into it like this reminds me a lot of what they did with Smile in certain ways. In fact, there's even a lot of comparisons with this and Smile from last year. But one of the things I think that really makes it really a lot more interesting is the fact that we do get some backstory involved with what happens, but at the same time, the way that it kind of goes and stuff, you really start to see of where she's coming from, and you start to really unravel it. And also, unlike Smile, I can't go into spoilers, but this one does have an ending to me I think was a lot better to a certain extent, and so there's at least that. Even though I really enjoyed Smile, I think that this one at least did better as far as the writing in that regard when it gets to its climax. And so she really pulled it off. And then I also it was interesting seeing the other woman, Miranda Otto, who I've known, if you've seen her in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, she played, I'm sorry I forgot her character's name, but she played the daughter of the king in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And so she was great. She does have some really great moments, especially when she's, being the overprotecting mother as she is and stuff like that. And, it's just great to always see her in movies like this. And, I also remember seeing her in Annabelle Creation. I thought she was great in that one too. And so she was fantastic. And then also, one of the other biggest things I have to really appreciate is how the movie goes into some territory where the world that they have set up, where pretty much you have people that are taking like videos and stuff like that of what's happening and everything, it really makes you really wonder like of what more they could probably, what all these kids have been really doing, and it seems like this has been going on for a while and things like that. And so there's a lot of mystery to it, but at the same time it really makes you really see about like things like that would happen in real life with these kind of kids going to parties and stuff, and you know, really just obsessed with it. Because pretty much when they go in this kind of like, when they get involved in this kind of entity, it's like basically a drug. It's the equivalent of essentially, if you remember Flatliners, how they pretty much went to experience death and stuff. Well, imagine basically that, where they just want to keep going back and back inside of it, but as a way of pretty much making it to where the spirits can pretty much take possession of you. That's, I think, what it really makes it really interesting, is that once they go inside, you know, they have to figure out all kinds of ways to try to basically defeat it and stuff like that. And it takes a lot of risk involved with this, because this isn't no easy task that they can pretty much go in and go out of. Because there are sequences, not to go into spoilers, but it gets into some pretty gruesome territory where pretty much when one person gets possessed, there's really no stopping it of what happens. And my jaw was just dropping, especially in a lot of scenes where it gets really fucking brutal. And knowing, if you've seen a lot of other movies that are made by A24, they don't really hold back on their practical effects. And the guys that, the brothers that did this, you know, they really put a lot of their definitely great work into making these kind of practical effects. And another thing too is that the movie actually does have some pretty funny parts that I didn't really expect, that actually goes in context with the film, the scene that's happening, and it doesn't take away the tone or anything, because there'll be scenes where they're partying and stuff, and it seems like it's kind of, you know, shifting away from the tone, but it gets into some territory that I actually did find myself actually laughing for, but in a good way. You know, and I think that these kind of characters that are doing these kind of weird things, especially the girl that's, you know, setting up everything with the hand and stuff like that, you know, it really just, it's something I found really believable. On top of that, when it gets into the third act, it definitely has a lot of like unexpected stuff that I didn't really see coming, and it really kind of tricks you with some of the directions, stuff that the ghosts are doing, that the entities are doing, that the spirits are doing in this film. So I found that really, you know, quite fascinating. And it did kind of give me some similar vibes, like I said earlier, with Smile. But I think this will actually make a great double feature with it come Halloween time, when I watch something like this along with Smile and, you know, other films that deal with that kind of like supernatural and almost psychological kind of level too. There's more I can go into detail, but the only kind of like minor nitpick I would say I kind of had is that, you know, they could have maybe focused on some of the spirits like haunting some of the other characters throughout the movie more, but that was just kind of a minor thing, because the movie is feeling like it was going on a more personal journey for our main girl in the film, and with what Mia has to go through and stuff like that. And plus, it definitely has an ending that really had my jaw dropped, and it really, you know, it had a great payoff in its regard. And so with that being said, I really enjoyed Talk to Me a lot, and it's going to be one of my favorite films of the year, and I'm going to give the film a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. And so, for those of you who have also seen Talk to Me, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.